Welcome to the podcast. Today I am joined by real estate expert Kimo Quance. Kimo has been a San Diego, I believe, born and raised, right?
Born and raised.
Born and raised San Diego guy, has been in real estate for how many years?
Gosh, as an investor and an agent, coming up on 20 years now.
Yeah, and so Kimo has really his finger on the pulse of real estate, and not only just what's happening now, but really seeing the cycles of things as they come through. And so what we're going to talk about today is a little bit what you need to know if you're thinking about buying, if you're thinking about selling, but also what the market looks like now, and is it something to freak out about, or is this just another cycle we're seeing? So welcome to the podcast, Kimo.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So, Kimo, tell me a little bit about your background in investing in real estate. You said as an investor and a real estate agent. Tell me a little bit about what you do there.
Yeah, so I got into real estate space by investing first. So I was investing for about 8 years before I became an agent. So I had built up a portfolio of properties as a single guy. I would buy a house, move to the next one, rent that last one, buy another one, then rent that one, and then just kept doing that. So I built up a little bit of a portfolio until I was like, you know what, I should get my real estate license.
Yeah. And from getting your real estate license, you've helped, I don't know, a couple hundred families kind of get going and in their real estate needs. Yeah.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
So now right now at the time of filming, we're midway through November. Talk to me a little bit about the market as it sits now. It's been kind of crazy. I feel like since COVID, it's been, crazy. What are we looking at going into the end of the year in 2024 here?
Certainly. So each month, the stats come out for year over year numbers, each month. So, right. So we're still in November. So we'll get November's year over year numbers in December here. But so we have the October year over year numbers. And for San Diego County, new listings are up. So how many listings actually hit the market is actually up 12% this October versus last October. So we're seeing more properties, come on the market in the month. But we're seeing pending properties increase as well by 21%. So pending is they have an accepted offer and now they're pending, closing the contract. And that's up 21% over last year. So that's a good sign that things are moving. Total inventory, though, is up for buyers. This is good for you. Total inventory is up. I think it's about, I have my numbers here, my cheat sheet. Total inventory is up about 38%. So for buyers, that is good for you because you have more options, right? And so when you're trying to get a good deal, when you have more options, right, the supply is more in your favor, so you can kind of work things a little bit more. So that's good. Versus having one or two options for what you're looking for. And we're seeing, the days on market. So the time a property goes on the market till it has an accepted offer, that is up about 33% as well, hovering right around 36 days for a property on average to get an offer accepted. So obviously we just had an election. There's some pent up demand. NAR just came out and said, NAR is the National Association of Realtors. They said they believe we're at the low of the market. Since this year was one of the roughest years as far as sales are concerned. So we're seeing that pent-up demand, they say it's going to shoot off like a rocket this next year. So
when I hear some of these numbers from someone who's not a real estate agent, I hear, wow, 38%, 33%, whatever it is. Those numbers are astronomical that it's taking almost 40% longer to sell a house, and there's almost 40% more houses. That's what the media would tell you. Is that is that a fair reaction, or is that sensationalized somehow?
I think it's more sensationalized because, when you hear that number, we're talking a difference of last year was 27 days to sell a house. This year is 36 days. So we're not talking like a huge swing. It sounds, I guess, more when you put it in percentage wise. But naturally, this time of year, there'll be a slowdown, just seasonality. But you'll see an increase. They say it's about a 10% slowdown on top of the normal seasonal slowdown due to an election. So there's a lot of people this second half of the year have kind of, sat on the fence a little bit to see what happens with this election. So we're going to see those buyers and sellers, hit the market this next year. So it should make for an interesting 2025. So if you're thinking about getting into the game of buying or selling real estate, I would say do it earlier rather than later.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so since we're seeing more homes hit the market, and we're seeing the days on market extend a little bit. Let's play the scenario. Say I'm calling you and I have a house to sell, and for whatever reason, I have to sell it before the end of the year.
Sure.
What would your best advice be for that?
Yeah, so if you're reaching out to me and you're looking to sell and you want to get it sold by the end of the year, the process starts now, right? No matter what you're doing, whether it's before the end of the year, whether you want to sell next spring or you want to sell next winter, the process is starting to someone now. There's too many times that a seller will reach out and say, hey, I'm ready to sell my property. I'd like to get it sold as soon as possible. Okay, when would you like to go on the market? I'd like to go on the market tomorrow. Okay. But they'll also at the same time want the most amount of money, which is totally understandable. People want to get the most amount of money for their property. But that takes time as well. To set yourself up for success, you want to give your agent enough time to build a buyer's list, build interest, get the marketing out there, etc. So if you're ready to go on the market, start the process now. Like I said, whether it's the end of the year, next year, or the end of next year.
Now so obviously, again, that would be a short turnaround. Again, we're a month and a half and we're seeing homes take a little longer to get an offer. And we're seeing it, there's a 30-day escrow process is about average, 21 to 30 days. If someone says, okay, I'm not in a hurry, but I'm ready to sell. What are the first things they need to do? What can they start doing now to get ready to sell, January, February, March?
Great question. So one of the things I do, with sellers when you're looking to sell, the first thing I do is when we meet, we actually go over the process, right? Give a quick education, not necessarily quick, but a crash course on the home buying or home selling process from step one to actually moving out and moving on to the next chapter of your life. But you want to have, whether it's myself, someone from our team, you want to have someone there to go through room by room to be able to get the house ready. Even if you're not going to put any money into the property to get it ready, maybe like, hey, Kimo, I really want to get this house sold, but I don't have any money, don't want to do anything. A, we have some solutions for that to be able to pay for things, to knock them out of pocket for you to get it properly ready for the market. But B, there's things you can do to get a property ready that doesn't cost any money. By moving that giant dresser that takes up all the floor space, and makes your room seem smaller than it is. Right? There's, clutter that can be cleaned up. There's a lot of things you can do that's inexpensive that you can start the process now. So especially if you're looking to sell in January, February, whatever, you want to have someone there to go through those things now. So that way it's less stressful as well, because selling and moving is already a stressful thing. But if you start now, you have some homework to get your property ready to make it look its best to get you the most money.
What's a realistic expectation if someone meets with you tomorrow, and then they move out? How long does it take from initial meeting to house is sold, they have money in their bank account at this end of the year?
This end of the year. So it really depends on the seller's motivation, right? There's cash offers, right, that you can get. There's institutional buyers that'll buy a property. They're not going to give dollar for dollar what the property's worth, but there's a convenience factor, right? So sometimes it's not always the seller wanting the most money. Sometimes it's speed, right? And that comes with a cost. Just like I tell people when you're trading in your car, right? We all trade in our car knowing we're not getting full value for the car, but it's the convenience of it. So it really depends on a seller's goals. That's ultimately why you want to meet with someone who knows what they're doing so they can determine really what your goals are to help you best get there. And it's not always the highest price. Sometimes it is. If it's the highest price, then don't call, today, want to go on the market tomorrow, right? Set yourself up for success. Give your agent a runway to be able to build the proper marketing plan to get you the highest price.
Let's switch. That was wonderful, by the way. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about buying a home. Now, people that have been on the fence for a while, maybe let's say since COVID, they're seeing prices go up. They're seeing inventory decrease. They're seeing interest rates go up. It can be disheartening. What do you say to those people that are looking to buy maybe their first property and they feel like they missed the boat?
Yeah, absolutely. I would stop thinking about that because everything's high, right? My water bill's too high, my electric's too high, everything's too high. But you're going to be paying someone's mortgage. It's either going to be your own or it's going to be your landlord's. So, it's all been proven through studies that, people who own a house have a way bigger net worth than people who rent, right? So you want to get in the game. Yes, it's going to be rates are too high. Yes, their home prices are too high. But what you can do is it's only going to get worse. It's shown over time that real estate values continue to go up and up and up. Okay. There's obviously some dips here and there, but we ain't seen a dip in a long time. Okay. So get in the game now, right? And then pay attention to the interest rates. Hopefully you got a great lender. Use one of our lenders. They'll be able to follow up with you and let you know, like, hey, now's a good time to refi, so you can bring down that payment at that time versus waiting till the end of next year when home prices are even higher, and who knows what the interest rates are doing at that time as well.
That was perfect. What do you say to people that say, well, I'm going to wait for the market to crash, then I'm going to buy?
So the people who are saying that they're going to wait for the market to crash and then buy, I've heard that for probably the last 6 or 7 years at least, probably longer than that. I've probably heard that for the last 10 years. They're still waiting, and prices are quite a bit higher. So it's that whole saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is to plant it now, right? So I'd always encourage people to buy now. I'm continuing to buy properties myself, because over time you're going to win. It's how long you hold a property.
If someone is looking to buy a house, and let's talk about first-time home buyers. They're looking to buy, what areas would you say are great areas to look in, or what would you advise someone when you meet with them that they're a first-time buyer? Would you say buy a condo? Would you say go more east? What's your, and of course it depends on their budget, but let's talk about a normal entry-level budget.
Sure. So anybody who's new, to home buying and buying their first house, how I work and people from my team work, whatever we meet in person, right? To really go over your goals. I never tell someone like, hey, you should buy a condo first, you should buy a single family first or whatever. I want to find out exactly what their goals are and what their needs are, right? A lot of times if someone needs walkability, right, maybe there's not going to be a single family house that makes sense for them. And that's more important, having the walkability factor and going that route. So really want to have a real estate agent who understands and knows what your goals are so they can help you meet them. But ultimately, meeting with an agent up front, knowing your goals, figuring out exactly what your lifestyle is going to be so that way we can point you in the right direction.
What would you say are some communities that first-time homeowners or home buyers can look into? Obviously, we're not talking about La Jolla or Rancho Santa Fe. And again, everything depends on where they are, where their family is, where their work is. But what if someone says, hey, I just moved here, maybe they PCS, they're in the military, and they want, that's a whole different actually level, but maybe they just moved here or they're moving here and they say, I want to buy my first home. What are some cities or neighborhoods they should look into that you like?
Some cities and neighborhoods that I like for people who are moving to San Diego, maybe don't know the areas or first-time home buyers or whatever, as I like East County, Santee, El Cajon, Lakeside, Alpine, Spring Valley, those kind of areas you can get in at a better price point. And there's a lot of great neighborhoods for families as well, especially, if you got kids and all that kind of stuff. So.
And you lived in Santee for a long time. You've seen it grow up. I feel like people say the kind of joke is Santee is the La Jolla of the East, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen it grow up a lot. Mm-hmm. You've seen it's almost become the new Poway, and I think Lakeside is going to be that in the next 20 years as well. Tell me a little bit about how you've seen these kind of more east or more rural areas that people think of when they think of Santee or Lakeside. How do they look now versus how people might have the perception in their brain?
I don't know how people view it in their brain, but I can tell you, I've been there. I moved there when I was like 7 years old, I think it was. So went to Santee School, but before Santee School's not even there anymore. Went to Santana. Carnival would come to town. It was all dirt lot. We had Po Folks and Jimmy's. That's pretty much all we had back in the day to eat food. So it's grown a ton. But you see this in any city in growth, right? People start to get pushed outwards, right? And something that may have been rural, 20 years ago, because Santee was rural, 20, been longer than that, 20, 30 years ago. That naturally happens and it'll start building up around it. Those people who bought at that time, it goes back to what I said, is that, it's how long you hold a property, because it's going to continue to go up. It's proven to do that over the years.
Exactly. I want to lean on your experience as a long-term investor here as well. What would you say to someone that's looking to get into investing, maybe buying their first investment property?
If you're looking to get into investing, and especially if you're a first-time investor, know your numbers. Okay, there's a lot of people who don't understand that. Oh, my mortgage payment is going to be $2,000, and I can rent it for $2,300. That means I'm making $300. That is not the case, because there's things like repairs that go into it. There's vacancies. When a tenant moves out and it's vacant for a month. I mean, that's the $2,000 in mortgage you have to pay at that time. Like I said, repairs, property management. If you're having a property manager, there's different stuff like that add into it. And so I have a spreadsheets that I can actually share if anybody needs help with that, to show you how to break it down so you really know if something cash flows. So know your numbers, whether it's long-term renting, fix and flipping, or whatever it is. Because that's where you make money, is knowing your numbers on the property.
I love that. What are some of the things you look for when buying an investment property? Are you looking for single family homes? Are you looking for condos? Are you looking for multifamily properties? What would you recommend?
When I'm looking to invest in properties, so there's a million ways to invest in real estate. And doesn't mean you have to do every one of them. So another piece of advice would just be picking one or two options. Don't try to do everything and be everything in investing. So pick one or two things that you think you might like. But what I do, I like fix and flipping, so single family houses, and I like long-term rentals, and I like short-term rentals. Those are the three main I do. I do have multifamily and investments in apartments, but it's not my main thing. Those three are more my main thing.
When looking at a fix and flip, are there certain areas, are there certain zip codes to avoid? Are there certain maybe governments or municipalities that are more difficult to fix and flip because it takes longer for permits? Anything like that people should be aware of?
So when I'm looking to invest in fix and flips, the first thing I want to do is I try to avoid having to pull permits. So I try to stay away from that because that just takes a lot of time. And then, holding costs are a real thing when you're flipping a property. Holding costs are the cost it is for your mortgage payment basically each month, and electricity and water and all that kind of stuff. So I try to avoid having to deal with permits whatsoever. As far as areas, I would just say invest in what you know. Make sure there's properties that are turning, in that area, and so you have good comps, comparables that you can sell against when you actually finish up the property to get it on the market.
Cool. And then you also mentioned you do short-term rentals. I don't know, 7 years ago, Airbnb was huge. A lot of people were buying places near the beach, and it was great. And then it seemed to get harder and harder with cities locking down and people that know that their home is worth more because it could be rented. What would you say to someone who's looking to do a short-term rental?
So if you're looking to do short-term rentals, it's absolutely my favorite form of investing. I have multiple short-term rentals and they make good money. What I would look out for is, yes, these days there is a lot more Airbnbs and VRBOs that are available. So you do have more competition. But if you really look at it, a lot of them aren't that much a competition. When you actually look at their furnishing, there's their design, etc., or even their communication. I was just recently reaching out to rent a property for my wife's birthday weekend, and I reached out to this after searching for like 15, no, not 15, after searching for like an hour looking at properties to book. I reached out to this one I finally picked out that I really liked, and I reached out to them multiple times over multiple days, and they never got back to me. And so it's very frustrating with that. So what I'm getting to is that if you want to get into a property, even though there's a lot of competition out there, you can set yourself apart by having great amenities, great design, great communication, great offerings within your property to set yourself apart. Yeah.
I love that. I want to. We talked a lot about buying right now. We talked a lot about selling right now. We talked a lot about investing. I want you to take all of your knowledge, everything you know, all of your experience, and I want to break it down for right now in this time and era. I want you to give me your number one tip for a home seller.
So my number one tip for a home seller is to start now. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but my tip is to start now, even if you're looking at the spring. Okay, so that way you get the homework, you can get a runway to get the property ready. Whether it's painting that bedroom you've been meaning to paint for a month, whether it's learning about options you didn't even realize were options to be able to get get your house sold. So meet and figure out a plan now, even if you're looking to sell 6 months from now.
Cool. If someone's looking to buy, give me right now, what is your number one home buyer tip?
If you're looking to buy right now, my number one home buyer tip is to meet with a real estate agent now. And you want to meet with them now for a number of reasons, even if you're looking to buy next summer. Okay. There may be something on your credit that needs work, and you probably already know it needs work, right? But the good lender, especially lenders we work with, can give you a blueprint to get that property ready, get your credit ready to be able to buy at that time. You may also find that, hey, you have some credit card debt and you think about, I really want to pay that off, or I really want to save a down payment, for a down payment. You may find out that you qualify for a grant, right? Maybe you don't have to come up with down payment. There's a number of zero down options and grant options that are available that you may qualify for. And so you're waiting for no reason. But also, too, you may find out, which something like 60% of people don't even realize that they qualify to be able to buy a house. So you may meet with one of our lenders and find out, man, I can actually buy a house. It's more affordable than I thought. And I can pay for my own mortgage and build my own wealth versus building a landlord's wealth. So my number one tip is to reach out to someone, mainly me or my team, now.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because that was the exact same story of me. I didn't think I could afford much. I just started this job 6 months previous. I got married 6 months previous. And I said, okay, well, we won't be able to afford anything. Mm-hmm. It was just my wife and I. She was getting her master's degree. We were both starting new jobs. And I didn't think it was possible. And then shortly thereafter, I met with a lender and I go, okay, well, probably maybe $20? Is that what I can afford? And I was actually qualified for about 4 times more than I actually expected to qualify for. And a week later, I asked my lender, I say, hey, do we need to lock in a rate? And he goes, no, you got to find the house first. I go, oh, I'm an escrow. We're open an escrow tomorrow. So it's crazy once you meet with a lender how quickly you can realize what you can afford, as well as how quickly that process can start to where you can have your own home, like you said, as opposed to paying someone else's.
Absolutely.
So if someone's looking to invest in real estate, they see the long-term potential, whether it be short-term rental, long-term rental, fix and flip, what's your number one tip for them?
If I was looking to, give me the question one more time.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So if someone's looking to invest, whether it be short-term rental, long-term rental, fix and flip, what's your number one tip that they should use to get started?
My number one tip to use to get started is to look up or learn. There's plenty of YouTube videos on this, on how to underwrite deals. Underwriting deals is knowing your numbers, right? You need to know, you're going to have to underwrite a lot of deals to be able to find the deal that actually makes sense. Okay. So it's not, I can buy this house for 400 and I can resell it for 600. Right? What's the closing cost when you buy it? This is all the stuff they don't show you on HGTV. What's the closing cost when you buy it? What's the closing cost when you sell it? Are we adding that number in there? The commissions. Did you bring your contractor through there? Do you actually know the real cost to do the rehab and the work? All right. Is there a contingency plan? What if you find out when you lift up the carpet, there's a foundation issue there? Do you have a little money baked in for a contingency plan if things go wrong and something comes up? A lot of those things are not shared on HGTV, so I highly encourage you to learn how to underwrite deals. And underwriting, whether it's fix and flip, whether it's short-term rentals, whether it's long-term rentals, or whatever it is, know your numbers.
Cool. Kimo, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't wait to share this out with everyone and get all of your knowledge out there.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. It's been a blast.